Hi, folks. This is Gary Ryan from the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. This podcast, we talk everything leadership, servant leadership, authentic leadership. We talk service excellence and high-performance cultures, and we throw in a bit of life balance as well. In this episode, I want to talk about the current offer that I've got going with the MP3 audio book and the eBook version through my company, Organizations That Matter, that I have a goal to give away 10,000 copies for free. How that came about was, some of you may be aware, I've had recently had my right hip replaced, and so I was physically out of action there for a little while. And so we hadn't been down to the local junior sporting football club where our children have played for 15 consecutive years. Now, it turned out that as a result of a bit of an issue with a positive issue in the end with my printer, I ended up with a box of books, 50 books that I hadn't paid for. And I was thinking to myself, who could I give these books to? So I thought, well, I'm going down to the junior football club on Sunday night after the games where there'll be 300 plus odd people, and I'll see if I can give the books away. Why not? It's an Amazon Kindle bestseller after all. So I made contact with the vice president. He agreed for me to come. We actually have a new president of the club, and for whatever reason, I hadn't actually met that new president yet, obviously because I hadn't been there this year. Quickly introduced myself, and Brodie Phillips very kindly did a nice introduction before the coaches did their speech, said some very kind things about the book and the bestseller, and then followed up with that after all the coaches had spent their time talking about their teams. Keeping in mind, of course, this is about the kids and the football. It's not about my book, and indicating that if folk wanted a free book of my bestseller, that they could get one. And I'm talking a physical book. Now, by the end of the night, I still had 18 books in my box. And I was talking with parents who had their children around them, and those parents would say to me, sorry, sounds really interesting, but I don't read. Sorry, sounds really interesting, but I don't read. Sorry, sounds really interesting, but I don't read. And I'm like, you don't read? I'm sure you read Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all sorts of other things that no doubt you're reading. You're reading things for your work, etc. And so when we're going home, my 12-year-old son was quite surprised to hear that people have been saying that, parents in particular, because in his world, parents read, they read books. But that's not everyone's world. And as I do, I'm saying, well, okay, what's the opportunity here, Gary? And what the opportunity was that they weren't saying that they don't read. What they were saying is they don't read physical books. Well, I thought, you know what? I want people to know the lessons that are in my book. And actually, in terms of the parent side of this equation, I've had a lot of feedback about my book that the subtitle could well have been Lessons for Parents from the Pandemic, not specifically Lessons for Leaders from the Pandemic, which is the actual subtitle. And what they've said to me is that the lessons in your book actually do relate to parenting. If you look through the chapters of the book, so the first one's around about engagement. Well, how do you engage with your children? So while this is focused on engaging with employees, the lessons are specific to, equally relevant to, engaging with children. The second chapter is about understanding your mental models. And, one of the deliberate mental models Michelle and I have developed with our 5 children is that they are responsible for their learning. It's a deliberate mental model. And the pandemic tested that mental model for each of them. And thankfully, we had taught it to them because they all came through with flying colours in each of their 5 very different instances and experience of the pandemic. And so for me, being responsible for my learning means that I keep reading, I keep listening, I keep speaking to people that have been successful that I want to learn from. And it's not about copying anyone. It's about doing that research, doing that smart, hard work, which is a mental model that I share in the book. And smart, hard work is such a powerful mental model for children to learn from parents. The third chapter is about understanding some neuroscience around how our brains work. Well, guess what? Children have got brains. It's the same neuroscience for them too. So around empathy and connection and clarity of what their role might mean to be a child in a family and you a parent. And chapter 4's around tripling that connection with children and flowing on from that. And chapter 5 is about vision and teaching people about vision and how to use creative tension in their lives. And I actually reference a story from my daughter. So even though it's a business book, I reference a story from my daughter when she was 10 years old, and how powerful that creative tension was for her, and how she actually created something that she believed was impossible. Now, the ripple effect for that now, she's 21 years old now, has been huge. if there's something she really wants to do, she goes, you know what? I know I can do it. I've done this before. It's such a powerful reinforcing lesson for life. Chapter 7 is about not just reading the book or listening to the book. It's about taking action. And finally, I've got some thoughts in chapter 8 about the future, moving out of the pandemic, which we've done over the past 12 months or so. And no doubt, if you're a parent, your children have been affected too by this. So with this opportunity, please click the link, take the opportunity to get access to the audio and ebook versions. Share this with as many people as possible. I'm dead set serious. I want to get to 10,000 copies. At the moment, we're sitting on about 8 countries around the world where the book has been shared. So those countries are Australia, New Zealand, we're in Hong Kong, we're in India, we're in the United States and Canada, we're in the UK, and we're also in Sweden. I'd love to get more countries added to that list. I do believe as of this morning, we're going to be pretty close to having Dubai added to that list. So that will be 9. It would be fantastic if we can increase that list. Now, I promise you, once we get to 10,000 copies, I think I'll probably say once we're getting close to there, well, why not go for 100,000? It's my property. I can give it away. That's my choice. Okay, I can do this. Hopefully you can help me achieve that. Get in, listen to the book or read the book, take some lessons from it. I want to hear your feedback. I am working on my next book called Service Excellence Matters. Let's think about it, folks. Organizations that matter. Disruption leadership matters. And service excellence matters. There's a bit of a theme there you've probably picked up. Once again, I'm Gary Ryan from Organizations That Matter. It's a pleasure to have you with us here on this podcast, and I look forward to next week's episode. Bye.